Good afternoon, everyone. Today, in this VC series section, I will be talking about pedagogy, andragogy, heutagogy, the paradigm shift, and the national education policy. I'm Dr. Preeti, Dean, Chitkara School of Health Sciences, Chitkara University. Overview of in this today's session, I would like to spend a little bit of time on why I chose this particular topic and what is the purpose of this presentation. Following which, I will be looking through the national education policy, its salient features from a particular perspective. I will also spend some time to relook at pedagogy and andragogy. And then we will spend some time to have a deeper look at what exactly is this concept of heutagogy. And finally, before I conclude, I'd like to bring all this together by talking about what is the paradigm shift when we look at pedagogy, andragogy, and heutagogy, along with the points from the national education policy. So the purpose of this presentation, so when I was thinking about what to present in this particular session of the VC series, the national education policy had come out. It is recent. And I have a particular interest in looking at the diverse methods of learning or teaching methodologies. So I have reviewed the national education policy, paying particular attention to the teaching learning perspective as mentioned in the national education policy. And I would be sharing that with you. We will spend a bit of time after a brief look at pedagogy and andragogy. We will be looking at heutagogy in a bit more detail and its integration into whatever we are doing today in the confines of a higher education university, particularly one which is focused on innovation. I also hope to provide some good reference so that all of you who are faculty can take this forward. So let's spend a little bit of time to look at the national education policy, its salient features. So as you know, it's divided into 4 parts: school education, higher education, other key areas of focus, which is particularly looking at professional education, adult learning, lifelong learning, promotion of Indian language, arts and culture, technology use and integration. And there's a whole section of online and digital education within the other key areas. And the final section of the policy is about how is all of this, as mentioned in the policy, going to actually happen. For this particular presentation, I have focused on higher education and, as mentioned, on the learning part. So if we look directly at the principles mentioned in the national education policy, there are certain points I would like to reiterate. One, it mentions that we need to recognize and identify and foster the unique capabilities of each student. Higher education is definitely not a clone manufacturing center. It is about bringing out the best of every human being as they are going through the higher education part, whether it is at the undergraduate level, the postgraduate level, or at the doctoral. It also mentions about providing within the curriculum flexibility to the learners, also to provide a multidisciplinary, or rather a holistic education, which goes beyond learning the particular competencies, but rather the overall graduate attributes. It focuses on integrating or developing a thorough understanding of the concept versus just memorizing it. And it is also about stimulating the creativity and critical thinking. Life skills are also talked about. And as all these process happens, there is a very strong emphasis to ensure assessment happens in a formative process besides the summative one, with evidence to show the student development of all these different attributes. Definitely, teachers which have all these attributes which can stimulate students to develop in this manner is very much required. And this is also talked about besides research. Now, the vision of this policy is to come up with an India-centric education system, which focuses on developing students who can contribute to this nation building and also contribute to making India a global knowledge superpower. And you can see aligned with this policy, I have put the vision statement of Chitkara University, which is equally over the last several years, decades, have been striving to be a globally recognized organization, promoting academic excellence through interdisciplinary applied research and to expand the realms of knowledge through innovation. Now, in this particular policy, they also talk about the need for a curriculum which reflects all of this, which is enshrined in the principle. So therefore, it means the curriculum needs to be relevant, interesting, engaging, and of course, updated. So it's a dynamic curriculum. And I have referred to the need for continuous assessment and also the need to provide student support, whether be it mentoring, whether be it remedial measures, or a host of measures which are taken by the different faculty to foster better learning among all types of students, whether they be top achievers or whether there are students who find certain concepts difficult or takes a little more time to understand. So in order to do this, very high quality pedagogy is required. And they have mentioned that the activities, the pedagogical activities, it decides the learning opportunities which are offered to the students, and therefore it impacts the learning outcome. The National Education Policy also stresses importance on CBCS, as well as looking at universities which are multidisciplinary, where varied programs coexist and there is interaction both at the faculty and student level, besides online learning. So they also promote local language. And all of you may be familiar with a very innovative project which has just been completed by the Department of Education at the School of Education at Chitkara University, the CLIL project. That is a place on the campus which each of us must visit and see, because it really strives to take forward content language integrated learning. And they also mention in the policy words or terms such as self-determination of faculty and institute. And again, they mention in several places the revamping of curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, student support, the need for a dynamic curriculum, the need for the integration of research foundation, as well as technology which is integrated, so there is online or open distance learning. They also mention particularly about pedagogy, which speaks about an expanded concentration on collaboration, discussion, research, cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary thought opportunities being provided to students. It is also important to also integrate humanistic, spiritual, constitutional, fundamental, ideal principles within what we are teaching, so that a human being or a student who is a citizen of the nation and a citizen of the community he or she belongs to can take this country forward. The other areas of focus where they have mentioned about education is, again, and this was of particular interest for me being from healthcare, where they are talking about that whenever we are talking about healthcare, we primarily think about allopathy. So they have talked about the integrative sense of health education system, so that not only about allopathy, but that the students must have a basic idea of Ayush. And similarly, the students who are focusing and learning on Ayush must also have an idea about allopathy. And all of this needs to be learned and tested at a regular basis. And besides all this, there is also a need, irrespective of whichever discipline one is, with artificial intelligence going in such a big way, and a national policy of our government, Niti Aayog, has come out with a policy on it. We really need to think about, for all our students, could we give them a learning so that they understand it and see if they need to take it forward. They also mention particularly a section in the National Education Policy about adult education, Andragogy, and lifelong learning. So they say that different measures need to be taken. And then there is also a whole focus on technology use and integration, which has become such a very mainstream part of our life. I mean, for the last 8 months, we have been continuing with our education with a very high integration of technology. And post-COVID, perhaps we will go back to classroom teaching, but I do not think that we would be going back to the era of just using, say, PowerPoint. I mean, we were using technology in multiple ways, but I think this experience that we've had over the last 8 months will ensure that we use it even in a bigger way. These are some examples which have been promoted. Our students are using it, and this will continue to be the way that we will go forward with our students being able to access Swayam, Parak, or Diksha, or different other opportunities. It also talks very strongly about the national education policy, which talks about the need for faculty which are vibrant, which really learn all these new different methodologies. And they also talk about having learning communities which are for students where they share and learn, but it's equally important for faculty also to have learning communities where they learn and share. So in several parts of the national education policy, they have reiterated the point about technology being an integral part to the way we will be offering our learning, and our teaching methodologies will incorporate that. We saw that it had a whole focus on collaborative learning, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and the need for faculty to look at overall building of the student, which is what we do by not only teaching the content, but also by doing mentoring and other activities to bring out the skills among students. Let's take a very quick minute to relook at concepts I'm sure all of you are very familiar with, but I'm just touching on it because then it will help us to compare when we look at Heutagogy. So pedagogy is what we are used to. In the sense, it is about the teacher who knows the content and the students who have no idea of the content. So it's very teacher dependent, and the teacher shares the knowledge, the skill, and builds up the student capabilities. So the teacher is driving the entire process, whether it is curriculum, the content planning, the delivery, and the students and the teacher kind of go through the process together at the implementation stage. The teacher, of course, stimulates conversations, which can help the student to increase their thinking, critical thinking, creativity. But pedagogy is very teacher-driven model. Andragogy, it is one of the most common examples when we think about andragogy is, it is of course adult learning. The commonest example was actually our continuous education programs or faculty development programs, which are extremely andragogy driven, in the sense that when the resource person or the expert is teaching, they always think about the target audience who are also experienced people who are experts in their different areas. So they kind of start with what does the target audience already know? And during the process, it is quite an interactive process wherein when you're running a particular workshop or a program, whoever is the target audience, whether it is students or faculty, they are often called upon to share their experience, to share their examples, and there might be joint action plan development, which is, fitted into their particular context of work. So there's pedagogy, there's andragogy. And now I want to just go through a little bit of heutagogy. And perhaps you will feel that, at the end of it, it's just a label to what we are already doing. So if it is like that, then we need to learn this label. If it is something new, then you need to understand what exactly is this. So this is pretty recent in the sense it's kind of 2000. And the very definition of heutagogy is, they say it is self-determined learning. And you will see in the national education policy, while the term heutagogy as such may not be mentioned specifically, but in several places, the term self-determined learning appears. And self-determined learning is kind of the definition for heutagogy. So I think it's perfectly fine if you cannot read, but if you can just look at the picture and see the direction of the arrows. So in andragogy, it is teacher which kind of directs the entire learning process. So the students or the participants come back to the teacher to kind of get an idea, what next? What should I do? What should I learn? And the guidance is provided by the teacher. Whereas in heutagogy, the teacher, and I would put it as all of us in this higher education community of Chitkara University, it is to the extent that we have played our part so well that we have taught our students how to learn. And the students, therefore, being thorough with how to learn, continues on the path of lifelong learning, and the student takes that direction forward. So here it is kind of the student in the middle, and the student is able to take his or her learning forward. Here, the person in the center could be the teacher who is taking his or her learning forward. It could be the student who is taking his or her learning forward. Or in andragogy, we have this as the teacher in the center, and the people who are learning, they have a high contact with the teacher or the mentor. So again, just to compare, this is from an example I found in the net, where if it's Heutagogy, the question is, what do you want to make? So there is a group of students, it's a maker's project, and the question is very broad. What do you want to make? If it is andragogy, the faculty would ask, well, there is a project, how would you like to modify this? How would you like to adapt? This is something that already exists. So it's kind of like the direction of what is the project is kind of maybe at a very abstract level it is specified, whereas here the student gets to make that choice. So here the teacher's role is just, providing that ecosystem and the resources, whether it be the library or the tools, and the students know where they need to go to pick up, to learn. Whereas here, it is a more structured, so there is a library period, or there is the project period wherein the student is expected to do a particular thing. So even though it's kind of to the availability of the student to figure out, there is perhaps a timetable or a structure to it. The teacher or the faculty is the coach, mentor. Here, whatever the learners want, you are there to kind of answer that question. It's not even necessary that you ask the question. Okay, so this is kind of the broad difference. And coming to the finished product, whatever is created was unique to that particular learners group and learning community. And the next year or the next time it is offered, it could have a totally different outcome at the end. Whereas here, there is something which, there is a definite plan and it goes along that. So it is self-determined learning, and it's student-centered instructional strategy that emphasizes the development of autonomy, the student capacity, and the capability. And one of the very interesting things about Heutagogy is it is about actually teaching how to learn, because that's one of the things we want to do. We want to set our path while they are here in the university in higher education on the path of continuous lifelong learning. But we actually teach it here in some kind of a structured way so that they can take that forward. And one of the most interesting fact is, for example, in Coursera, when you look at what is the most popular course that is there, one of the most popular course is how to learn. So people are actually seeking in today's era, how do I learn? How do I continuously learn? And that learning is what is taught through this Heutagogy. And I think in the COVID era, that's pretty much with this very high amount of online teaching, online learning, both synchronous, asynchronous, I think we kind of were really taking forward the principles of Heutagogy. So in summary, so in Heutagogy is self-determined learning. The students look beyond their own disciplines. So you have, maybe it's electives, maybe it's through CBCS, but they have an opportunity, even though they have entered into a particular stream. If they would like to learn something more, opportunity is there. The students have the opportunity to explore and learn on their own, whether it's through project, it's through innovation. For certain things, they do not really need to go through the teacher. So maybe it's like those value-added courses. And teacher is focusing on designing that whole process, not so much the content. What is that process by which students can really learn? And the student tries to move into the world of the learner. And finally, this is how future is happening, where knowing how to learn is a fundamental skill. So it's not just learning the content skill or certain skills, but even knowing how to learn, because we have seen that, especially if we look at this year, there are so many skills that all of us had to pick up in order to be adapt, in order to be agile, flexible to the situation that came to us. So the change management process, we were able to adapt because we kind of knew the path to kind of learning very quickly how to learn. I just want to share a few articles which are there. There are several, of course. I'm just showing a few. This came from the social sciences. So this is looking at Heutagogy society-based learning. So it's not talking about a community which is a very closed community. So we are talking about open learning. And there are resources which are being made available so that a lot of people can learn at the same time. But as I talk about Heutagogy, I also, like, for example, the learning from this particular article, they also talk about what are kind of some risk about Heutagogy. Not everything is gold and perfect as it looks. There are also some drawback. If the student who comes into the higher education stream has not thought through very clearly what is the career they want, they may explore a lot of things. They may not learn the core, what they should learn, and find you could become a jack of all trades, but master of none. So how do you do that balance? It is fine to learn a lot of things, but you must also have probably some kind of a specialization at some point to be really useful in the employment market. So how do students learn that? Is it okay if they spend some time learning and it's a longer journey than perhaps the 3-year or the 4 years that is perhaps mandated? So these are some thoughts that we need to think about as faculty when we talk about CBCS, when you talk about Heutagogy, and there's a lot of choice. For example, we are already in the process where we take feedback from our students on our curriculum. When you're in higher education, the students have the maturity to give us that feedback, and we feed it into redesigning our curriculums every year. So every year we take feedback from so many different stakeholders, and then we put it into our process. We review it and we look at, well, how do we make the curriculum more dynamic? Because when students perhaps go into internship, they're also more thorough about what does the market need. And as they go through placement, they also understand what exactly the market needs. So the alumni is also able to give us that feedback besides the industry stakeholders. So we need to think about Heutagogy. Yes, all of us are involved, and we are definitely going to be on this path, but a certain element of caution we need to bear in mind. Now, these are different articles. This particular one is about, when you read the article, it will talk about Heutagogy as applied in the engineering side. This particular article, this Heutagogy approach, this was for design, the design school, all of that. This is about how they have implemented it. This particular article is about Heutagogy as applied in management education. And this particular one is in nursing, and there are definitely several more articles. I mean, for sure in healthcare there is, and I just selected a few others just to showcase that, you know, these kind of articles are already there. Definitely there is a lot which is happening in the space of education per se. There are a lot of research articles which are going on in this area. So finally, what is this paradigm shift that we are talking about? So all of this is happening. So when I make this statement that it is already happening. It is not about something in the future, but it is rather about putting a label to what is it we are doing. So I would like to just talk about that in the next few slides, keeping in mind how much alignment there is with the national education policy. So current perspective, when we think about it, we kind of think pedagogy is what really happens out there. You know, majority of the teaching learning methods follow the pedagogical practice. Some amount of andragogy, and probably in our mindset, perhaps it was that heutagogy is something new, which it certainly is compared to the other two concepts, and not really practiced, or perhaps practiced elsewhere. So the paradigm shift that I really want to put forth is, according to me, this is like very much what is in practice. But like I have been saying, it's kind of thinking with a different perspective and labeling it in a particular way. So the students which enter into the higher education system, which is the students after their +2 in our first year, perhaps there is a certain mix of pedagogical practice that we use with them because they are transitioning. They are transitioning from a school system, which is kind of in India, very much coaching, very much entrance exam focused. So perhaps from 8 to 12, they've not only been studying in the school, but they have a parallel education system, so to speak, in order to be ready for certain competitive exams, which they cross and therefore are able to get admissions to universities like us, which have eligibility criteria where we would like meritorious students. Andragogy, I feel we are already doing it when we have training for our faculty, as in summer school, winter school, or it is our faculty development programs. Also, if we think about our masters, a lot of what happens with them, we as faculty use the andragogy teaching methods when we are interacting with that group, because they're already graduates and they're already in a particular line, perhaps of thinking or of career, and definitely with our PhD scholars. So heutagogy, when we think about it, I think we should be able to think about right from the bachelor's level or the graduate level. A majority of our students are doing some kind of project. Now, it may be a research project, it may be an innovation that they're interested in, it may be taking forward an idea for patent or entrepreneurship. The ecosystem of Chitkara University facilitates it. Several of our students take it up, and that's pretty much self-determined. It's kind of running with their idea. I already mentioned we have a process in place wherein students are kind of central to our curriculum building or design or revamping phase, where they give feedback to what they study, what next needs to change, and how something can be better. We also have, when the students are in internship, while they broadly may have some area of posting, a lot of the learning is actually self-determined, because they kind of have to, there is a structure of a very broad curriculum or a very broad set of competencies, of course, that they must learn. But while they are in the actual place where they experience what an actual job looks like, there is a lot of assimilation of the learning, and the students pick up. And in my mind, that's also very much in the perspective of heutagogy. And definitely, I think all of us as faculty, we choose our own areas of research to, follow through based perhaps on our interest, based perhaps on what we had already done and would like to take further. We attend so many webinars or learning opportunities based on our interest. So if we are interested in a particular area, we may do something more, whereas our colleague may do it on a totally different area. So that's very much self-determined, because we know we do need to continuously learn. But it's kind of what is it we learn is pretty much our choice. And I definitely feel at the PhD scholars or the doctoral level, there may be a certain part, I've used the term andragogy, there is coursework which is perhaps more structured, but a lot of it about what is their research idea, what is the problem statement that they would like to make a difference. And the national education policy, one of the things they really reiterate is find a problem in your local context, in your local area, wherever that may be, and work on it. So I think that freedom which we give to our PhD scholars to find their problem statement and take it forward is definitely what is under the broad heutagogy. So I feel the shift is kind of already happened, where heutagogy is not something less or something in the future. And you will see, I have just filled a whole lot of things related to here. So pedagogy happens, andragogy certainly happens more. So as we go higher in the higher education, we definitely see heutagogy happening. But we are also seeing it even at the level of our first year students, the kind of choices that we give to them, whether it is within their own curriculum or the ability to choose from the wide range, perhaps, which is offered in the STEAM school or as part of CBCS or electives. I'm going to conclude with a set of resources which I hope you are familiar with. If not, these are resources I have found quite useful, and maybe you might like to explore and see it. So this is Cult of Pedagogy, which is started by a teacher. Now she's called it as Cult of Pedagogy, which I thought is a very kind of like a nice name. But what she kind of provides in it is got a lot to do about teaching and assessment strategies. She's got a lot of great ideas for classroom management, educational technology, advice for teachers. So in it, even though the name says Cult of Pedagogy, I think there are a lot of resources which could be at the realm of heutagogy and andragogy that we could find in here. There's another blog called the Cool Cat Teachers blog. Yeah, so it's just put by somebody, and I know several of our own faculty are doing different things. So I just highlighted Apni Physics, which was done by Sushil Sir from Chitkara University. So he's put his learning there, and it's open. It's an open learning community, and different people can join in and take it forward. So there are a lot of different areas that he tries to focus, and there must be several more. And I do hope that through this, perhaps all of you will also think about what is it that you can take forward. So in conclusion, we would like to change the teaching learning methodology. Perhaps more than change, we want to kind of emphasize more a multidisciplinary ecosystem, which is there in our university, but then how much can we really strive to make it available to our students? How can we ensure all the students in our groups who are doing research don't just do a research which is just graded and it goes into a book, but actually makes a change for society? The society around us is a great place to begin. There's so many problems. Every year, Chitkara University hosts Knowit through the Current, where they look at local problems within the university, perhaps, or within the local areas, and ask different people, groups of people to work on it. We need to look at, well, how do we integrate learning and application of innovation when we are teaching? It doesn't matter what is the course, but how do we integrate it? Functional competencies must be there, but then we are trying to create a faculty who in the long run is definitely somebody who's aware about the higher education ecosystem, the innovations which happen in it, including the teaching methodologies which are innovative and can be applied, definitely enthusiastic and empowered, as I am sure all of you are. So with this, I conclude. There's some references. Perhaps this will be circulated or it'll be available somewhere. So you can take it, or you can just go to Google Scholar or different reference portals and see on this topic. So thank you very much.